Good Wednesday morning, and welcome to Ice Age TV, the internal combustion engine age YouTube channel that talks about the cars and trucks, motorcycles, race trucks, race spoilers. Hey, where's all the cars? Where'd everything go? Where'd everybody go? Hey, the barn's open. Where's the kid? Wow. In there, welcome to my channel. Appreciate you tuning in on this Wednesday morning. Beautiful weather here. Got my Bronco shirt on. Bronco hat. What do you think I'm doing today, huh? I'm going to drive that Bronco. It's unbelievable that I have barely driven that black Bronco that I just bought. I think I was like 800 miles on it. And when I bought it, that thing had like 600 miles. I can't even remember. So it was used. And what is going on? Property looks respectable. Not too bad. Everything's in order for us to leave. Hopefully, get out of town. Got the kid driving the race truck. I'm driving the Bronco. And, you know, my wife sometimes like, why do you always take two cars? Like, why? Because I like to have different vehicles to drive when I drive around. That's just who I am. But you know another thing I do? With my daughter getting on the highways and following me down the road, it's just giving her more skills behind the wheel of a car. Come on, Pops, let's go. Come on, get in. Come on, let's go. Get in the office. Get in. Get in. Guys, dogs down in the street. Fiasco. Come on, let's go. Looky here. Come on. Yeah, just unbelievable. My neighbor times himself. I mean, I'm like out here a good 10, 15 minutes late. Come on, Will. Let's go. Everybody get in. Come on. Come on, Will. Let's go. So here's the Bronco. And she's all ready to go. Come on, boys. Let's go. Come on, let's go. Come on. Let's go. It just doesn't end. Which dog do you think's not here? Yeah, Willow. Anybody know this story? Yeah, the kid's already off to work. She's already helping getting the day go. Hey, switch things around, you notice? Shop's a little different. So, let's get the gang in and get the dog. I think Willow's deaf. Come on, Will. There he is. Get in. Get in. Yeah, get in. Jesus Christ. Yeah, the Bronco. Barely driven this thing. Oh, yeah. I think that borderline, Willow, you're deaf. Yeah, that's the conversation this morning. Are you deaf? Are you blind? Come on, get up there. Get your butt upstairs. Come on, move it. Oh, my goodness gracious. Yeah, I got to get things in order to get out of here for the road trip today. Go to Tennessee so we can have our weekend. But the big thing is, it's my 27th anniversary tomorrow. So the wife wanted to be down south with her mother and to celebrate our 27 years of marriage. Wow. Whew. Anybody who's been married 27 years, got any stories to tell me? Yeah. How much time do I have? Yeah. How much time do you have? Yeah. Are you deaf? Are you blind by the time you've been married that long? Yeah. Yeah, so the reason I'm talking this morning about deafness, no hearing, is because my brother was born borderline deaf. My brother is 80% plus deaf. And he has no hearing in his one ear. And for me, I have hearing aids, so I have severe hearing loss. And it's genetic. It's from my father's side of the family. My father has severe hearing loss. My one sister has hearing loss. My other sister, not so much. So in the family, it's a gene thing. But my brother's the worst. And so until you understand that, I just told myself this morning, what was the woman that was deaf and blind? I should know who she is. But anyways, so. And I think to myself, in so many aspects, in the car industry, think this through. For a deaf person, are they attached to the ICE vehicles like us hearing people are? Does an individual that has severe hearing loss, do they really relate with the noise? So for them, would they be like, I really don't get anything out of this gas engine car because I'm deaf. And so it doesn't really matter to me. Yeah, I mean, think that through. I was even thinking to myself this morning, can you imagine with the technology that's upon us for a person that's blind? Is a person that's blind going to be able to get into a vehicle and go somewhere? Because without anybody else, because the autonomous self-driving vehicles? Wow. I mean, so for all this advanced technology, if you're a disabled person, is this new technology going to be a blessing for you in so many ways? I mean, even to the point that you see this, people have artificial legs and limbs and everything else, and it's become robotic. And so if you're a blind person or you're a handicapped person, with all this technology, you may be able to go do things more than ever in your life in the future because of the capability of a vehicle being able to drive itself and take you places that you never ever could do without somebody else's assistance. And you can be more independent per se as an individual over constantly having to have somebody be there next to you to take you somewhere. And or if you even have this incredible new technology that can, for a blind person, is there going to be a future walking stick device that walks them correctly? That's going to have eyes for them? I mean, it's probably far-fetched from what I'm just saying in some ways, but in some other ways, I mean, think it through. Is there going to be something that blind person will have attached to them that protects them from where they're going? Wow. So for the deaf individual, I mean, until you experience hard hearing, it's hard to relate to, because for me, you don't hear all these little sounds. And so for what you may hear, I don't hear, even to the point that my hearing aids, I don't have them cranked up real high because I actually don't want to hear that. For so many years, I've been borderline deaf because my hearing's been degraded so much. I mean, one thing for sure, back in 1998, when I bought my Ram 3500 dually truck, Cummins motor, those 90s Cummins motors, those things were so noisy. And even part of me says that maybe that helped, that made my hearing loss even progress faster. Because, I mean, I'm not embellishing. I remember driving down the highway in that truck and me having to crank the radio up like you can't believe. If anybody called me on my cell phone, it was barely could hear them. I mean, those engines rattled. They were noisy. You're going down the highway, and I lived in those trucks. It really wasn't until, I guess, after 2000, mid-2000, they really started refining that engine noise. But for the 90s, anybody who owns those Cummins motors, and even the Fords and, Chevys, the Duramax, I should say, but the Cummins, to me, was the loudest engine I ever owned in my lifetime. Engine. I'm not talking about exhaust. I'm just talking about just the clanking, the noise of that engine that radiated through that interior. So that in some ways, excuse me, that in some ways probably progressed my hearing quicker to get worse. It wasn't until 2000, I believe, 6 that I finally bought hearing aids. And here's the thing. Back in the day, the insurance industry didn't recognize your hearing loss. They wouldn't assist you. It was beyond believable. So back in 2006, I spent $6,000 out of my pocket for hearing aids. Now today, insurance companies will reimburse you for your hearing aids, and we have the federal Blue Cross Blue Shield, which is $20,000 a year. It's not free. But the whole point is, I can buy hearing aids every 3 years, and they'll reimburse me for that expenditure, which is pretty cool. And I go to Costco because they're reasonably priced. And like yesterday, my one hearing aid broke. Went there, and miraculously, they fixed it right there on the spot. So that's pretty cool. So back to the cars, for those individuals that have really good hearing, I mean, I can only imagine somebody has just incredible hearing. How do you deal with these loud interior vehicles? And that's what I'm saying is that for me, what I've noticed, if I crank up my hearing aids, I can really start hearing all the imperfections of the damn car. I start hearing the wind noise, the little creak in the car. I just don't want to hear it. I mean, I deliberately keep my hearing aids at a level where I don't hear my dog's feet. If you don't trim your dog's, toenails, their claws or whatever, they those dogs run across the floor on a hard surface. You just hear like chi. And so for me, I learned many years ago when I first got my hearing aids, it was like a whole eye opener. That I was like, wow, this is all the noise that I've been missing. And I'm like, but I don't miss that noise. I don't like that noise. So I deliberately don't have my hearing aids at the highest level. Especially if you go to like a restaurant. Oh my gosh. It's just so noisy. And that's a challenge. So for the car, for all us motorheads that love all this noise, I'm sure for many people that have severe hearing loss or don't hear at all, are they going to be really the people, feeling like they got cheated in the ice age and versus the electric age? For them, it's just like, it's a vehicle. It gets down the road. What's the big deal? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people out there are on that page anyways. It's a vehicle. And what's the big deal if the thing makes noise or doesn't make noise? I mean, what's that all about? Well, we know if you're the motorhead, that connection with that exhaust and that rumble, it's you can't replace that feeling. It's just one of those things where you're a kid growing up and you heard that exhaust, or you're in your car and you get into it and you just feel that engine rumble and that goes through. Just like that Dodge Charger Hellcat I have. That thing's just so much fun when you really get into it. Just like my daughter's Dodge Challenger wide body. Oh my gosh. Yesterday, I don't know if any of my friends in these dealerships were following me. Got to take this call with my kid because she's out working in the field. Oh, the disruptions, which takes me off the focal point of whatever. My kid's out working in the field this morning, so we get the heck out of here. Try to get her a decent time on our travel to Tennessee. So that's really helped me out a lot. But here's the thing. Yesterday, I went out. I mean, do these guys think that I'm deaf and blind? I mean, I don't know. It's kind of disappointing. And anybody here that's watched my channel, I'm sure you can relate with, sometimes you probably feel like the people around you are deaf and borderline blind because you're trying to tell them something and they're just oblivious to what you're talking about. More than ever in today's society, do you feel like people are deaf and blind around you? And what I mean by that is they're busy, they're preoccupied. We all do it. Looking at your cell phone. I mean, who isn't doing this when you're talking to them? Oh, yeah. I mean, we all do it. I mean, it's just bad. And so you're borderline. You're talking to a deaf and blind person because the person is not picking up the information, the communication you're talking about. They're not seeing what you're talking about. So, I mean, once again, I'm not here to say I don't do that. It's a challenge. But at the same time, at the car dealership, do you ever feel like the salespeople and or whoever the management is deaf and blind? You're sitting here telling them, well, this is the ball game. And they just want to continue to do their rhetoric and try to get you to do something you don't want to do. So yesterday, we went and drove this Jeep. I mean, it's just Murphy's Law. We go to Coons Showing in Ford in Virginia, and because they owe me monies, and I go down there and get my monies for all the cars I've sold, and I get warranty monies back. And, we can't escape without something being sitting on the lot that the kid wants to drive. And so we drive this Jeep, 2020 Jeep Wrangler, two-door, lifted, came from Arizona. It's been abused. I tell my kids, like, this thing has been ragged out. There's no doubt in my mind. This thing has been ragged out because it's been on all these trail. It has 4 different plaques on the side of the car. You can watch the video from yesterday. It has 4 plaques on the side of the freaking Toyota or the Jeep of all the different rock crawls and all the different back road the person's done. And then you go to the, we didn't even go to the Carfax, but I just had a gut instinct. This thing, nah, they want a premium money for it too. And I was just like, no way. It's just like this thing's a beater. This is a beater Jeep. And it's been all over the country. It's come from Arizona to Maryland, now to Virginia. And so I just didn't have a good feeling about that vehicle. The daughter, she's a young kid. She's wanting it because it's a manual Jeep. And she's just head over heels over it. But for me, I'm like, it's not the vehicle. So sure enough, these guys are just hammering hammering to try to get me to buy that vehicle. I'm like, no, they're just trying to make. Oh my gosh, it was pretty bad, really. For me, it's like, guys, it just isn't the day. It's not the vehicle. We got to go. I'm leaving. I have too much on my plate right now. We're leaving. So, sure enough, I call one of my friends at the Dodge dealership and just say, hey, do you have any, Jeeps sitting there in your lot that are manual? And they're like, we don't because you can't. I'm like, what do you mean by that? He's like, there's a no sale on all Jeep Wrangler vehicles on X model years because of the transmission issue. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, you cannot. All of our manual Jeep Wranglers have been removed from our lot until they can get the part to fix the transmission issues. There's not going to be a sale of those vehicles. So borderline, the dealership, Kuhn Sterling Ford in Sterling, they're trying to sell me a no-sell car. I don't know. Since it's used, I guess it's a different ball game. But sure enough, when I got home, I did the Carfax report on that vehicle. And sure enough, it has that. And what it is, it's the manual transmission. It's the disc. It's the pressure plate. The pressure plate on that manual transmission apparently has issues, and the design of it, and they need a different part, and they needed to update whatever, but the part is nowhere to be seen. Nobody knows when the part's going to be available. It could be 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, a year. They don't know. So I told my kid, I said, if we would have bought that vehicle and that pressure plate would have broke on that vehicle, like next week, the following week, there's no part to replace it. So it'd be sitting in the driveway like that Ram 2500 pipe truck I bought last year that I took apart in October of last year and didn't get it back until January of this past year for the fiasco. I got myself into that. I'm like, no, I ain't going down this rabbit hole again. So, yeah, are you deaf? I was telling the kid, it's like, you're not listening to me. You're not listening. This vehicle, I told you from the get-go, I don't have a good feeling about this vehicle. So with the car gods on our side yesterday, I don't know. I just didn't feel good about it. So anyways, and that's the thing. You drive these cars. Who doesn't feel when you're driving down the road that the person next to you is borderline deaf and blind because they're cutting you off and you're blowing your horn and they're oblivious. Who doesn't pull their car out in the middle of a parking lot as you're driving along and you're beeping your horn? They're about running into you. Who hasn't been on the street driving, walking down the street and somebody's in their car and they're oblivious to you're there. They just about run you over like they're deaf and blind. Yeah, right. So anyways, the deaf and blind, radiates into so many other things more than ever in today's society that I think so many of us are objecting to so many things that the governing bodies and agendas are pushing. And I think that so many of us feel like it's deafness, meaning that the opposers aren't being heard. So the agenda, pushers are deaf to the opposition. And to tell you what, it's incredible is the battery power. The battery power is going through the roof. I mean, the technology is advancing on these batteries just is incredible. I mean, it truly is incredible of the amount of power that they're starting to figure out and how to make these batteries. And they're making claims they can recharge these batteries to go 100 miles in 10 minutes. But these battery packs are getting to be, in some ways, massive. You're talking about General Motors, they're going to have a 200 kilowatt battery pack. That's actually, I was saying the other day, it was like 420 miles. It's 450 mile range. Yeah, Chevrolet is all over the big battery pack with 450 mile claim range and fast charging capability. It's the Hummer battery pack that's going to be put in to the Cadillac Escalade IQ. It's going to be put into the Chevy Silverado work truck. So for General Motors, it's a lithium iron phosphate LPF battery structure, but they're blending other technologies into these batteries to make them so they're even more powerful. So, yeah. So as we sit here and want to be deaf in so many ways to the EV agenda growing by leaps and bounds, even for us that are the Ice Age people, yeah, you can just turn everything off, but it's not stopping. And I was reading this morning that 500,000 charging stations is the goal to be put in place by 1930. Jesus Christ, right? Jeez. Do I need more coffee? 2030, 500,000 charging stations. Who's paying for all this? How they get? What I'm really curious about is, so they talk about the transition of these charging stations turning into gas stations, but these gas stations are expensive. I mean, to own a gas station, you pay $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a month rent to have this gas station, and that's just the rent. That's not any employees or anything else. So all these charging stations populate these gas stations. What are the charging stations having to pay the gas stations to be on their site? Is there revenue sharing? But I mean, it's minuscule. I drive by these gas stations in my area all the time, and you'll see 10, 12 charging stations, and you'll see one Tesla there for the most part. It's dominant Tesla up in this area, in the big, Sheets type of Wawa type of mega stations. And yeah, I mean, typically you drive by, you'll see one, all right, maybe two or three, maybe. You never see them all filled up. Sure, people in California, it's a different story. You're a whole different market, whole different trend. You're just ahead of most of the country. So, what's going to fall on deaf ears on when these gas stations start saying, well, these charging stations are beautiful, but you got to pay us $10,000 a month for you to have our space. You're taking up X amount of space of our property, so that's worth $5,000, $7,000. So what does that radiate back into you as a charging person? Yeah, you're going to pay $1 a kilowatt to recharge your car. See, that's where the deaf ears come into this whole green agenda thing. It's beyond believable that people want to talk about buying an electric car and you save all this money over, the maintenance and the fuel. It's like, you're so wrong. You're not. The car is extremely expensive, and it's going to take years to recoup that. And as time progresses, you're not going to have the free ride that so many think they will, because it's an electric vehicle and it doesn't require gasoline to operate it. It's, but it falls on deaf ears. And that's what's going on more than ever in society, is any of us here that oppose these borderline radical movements and changes of so many things. Here's an interesting story. Here's a father and mother that have a daughter that they paid to go to a private school, and they're suing the private school because the father is sick and tired of the school's education ideology. Is his statement is, I sent my daughter to private school to learn how to think, not to learn what to think. So he's suing the school because he's sick of it. He's sick of how the ideology is overtaking the logic and reason. And it's going on more than ever in our society of the education system that we are around, that, it's more of ideology teachings than logic and reason. I've talked about this before. But it falls on deaf ears because most parents aren't going to challenge this, because then you're going to be the problem. But I tell you what, I met a really nice gentleman that I sold my Decker box to, and he's a teacher, and he can honestly tell you, yeah, I mean, what we talk about and what you see around us, yeah, I mean, it's real. I mean, this isn't stuff just being made up. And yeah, I mean, is it more challenging? Yeah, in some ways. I mean, he enjoys his teaching and all, but at the same time, it's good to talk to somebody that's in that field, because you hear so many news, you see so many stories, but it's good to talk to somebody that's real, and they can say, yeah, I mean, there's definitely challenges, and in different districts of the country, some handle it a certain way and some don't, and that's the whole thing. But it falls on deaf ears. And that's kind of where we are more than ever, I think, for so many of us. So we feel like there's so many things that are progressing and being changed, and it just falls on deaf ears. Nobody really pursues trying to change things. I mean, so it's just so it's I mean, to me, it's the deaf and the blind. I mean, I think is our country more than ever. Are we living in times more than ever that people truly have become deaf and blind? And not physically, but literally, because they just don't want to have to challenge what the select few want to, push and progress. Yeah, I mean, wow, right? I mean, oh my goodness gracious. And for me, my brother, it's an 8-year difference in age. So that's usually a challenge out there when you have family, because we're just two different age groups and we didn't have that typical brother bond because we were such separation. When I'm 8 years old, he's 16. I mean, he's in high school. I'm just still in elementary school. So it isn't that we aren't good friends and haven't had fun. Yeah, we have. But it's not the same type of relationship that you would be if my brother was only a year or 2 year difference in age, because you just do so many more things as you grow up together. But the biggest thing for my brother is, since he has such severe hearing, I can't really talk to him per se. So growing up with my brother, to call him on the phone and try to have a conversation, and especially back in the day when the hearing aids weren't that great. I'm talking back in the 70s and 80s. And I mean, so to try to have a conversation with my brother, very challenging. Even today, very challenging. It's more about texting, or it's more about me having to be in person right in front of him so he can read my lips. So for my brother and I, the relationship hasn't been as big a bond because of his hearing challenges. Because we just can't get on the phone. I can start talking about what's going on. He starts talking. It's just too challenging. He thinks I'm saying something else. I mean, it's just I've talked about it before, growing up with my family on the dinner table, and how the conversation of my dad coming home and saying he went to the store to buy a tool, that my brother thinks that he's going to buy a pool. I mean, you think that I'm making those stories up. I mean, yeah, but here's the thing. More than ever, doesn't it seem like today's society, the information that is spoken is so misinformation by the time it gets around, that what was the real message? Yeah. And what's the real message today? I mean, what is the message today more than ever of where we are? I mean, what's the message? I mean, golly, who can watch the news? Who can stand it? Who can listen to these political figures just mouth off at each other? It's just like they point the finger, the blame game. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine going to a business? Truly, can you imagine going into a business and let's just say you go to Starbucks to buy a coffee, and the coffee didn't come out the way it's supposed to. And then you watch behind the counter, the people start fighting among themselves of what's wrong. And instead of resolving the problem, they just sit there and they fight among themselves and play the blame game. And that's what they do. I mean, but that's what we have in a political government body today, is we have these figures that just blame each other for all the problems that they have created and they have supported. And it's just, wow. I mean, and the thing is, as well as I do, if you're a business owner, you operate the way these people operate you wouldn't be in business. You wouldn't be in business. You would not be acceptable. As a business owner, your customer just wants the problem resolved. If you goof things up, resolve the problem. Don't start talking about how my employee did this and that created that and that over there did that, which did this and that. They don't want to hear all this malarkey. Right, but that's what we have in power in our country, is that type of way of politicizing so many things. Oh my gosh. So today's a big day for Twitter, for Ron DeSantis, who's going to go out there with Elon Musk and announce his presidency. Wow. Is Ron DeSantis going to fall on deaf ears of the GOP party? Yeah, interesting times. I mean, one thing is sure, definitely a lot of drama going on. If you want to get caught up in the drama, and you want to, if you want to, but here's the thing: I bet you a lot of people at this point want to be deaf. I mean, come on. I mean, sincerely. I mean, at some point, you're like, I just don't want to hear it. I mean, sincerely. I think more than ever, a lot of people are like, I wouldn't mind losing my hearing for a while. I don't want to hear this stuff no more. I don't want to hear it. And I wouldn't mind losing my eyesight for a while either, because I don't want to see this stuff anymore. Yeah, right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching my channel. Today is driving day. Heading to Tennessee, and hopefully can go out there and have some fun and do the adventures. And I got to be careful. I'm down there doing my morning conversations because my one friend that watches the channel here is telling you for this past weekend show about me taking the phone and constantly walking around. He's like, man, I'm getting seasick, so I gotta get a better setup down there to do that, if you know what I mean. So anyways, everybody, as always, I appreciate everybody watching my channel and listen to my ideas and views. And that's just all it is, just throwing ideas out there and views. And hopefully this conversation morning just maybe entertain you or just give you some ideas about, once again, the real theme of this morning's conversation is that for a deaf person, will they really have the separation of the gas versus the electric vehicle? And for the person that's handicapped, does all this new technology give them the independence to travel more than ever because of the future of autonomous driving vehicles and the robotics? I mean, I know if I was a handicapped person and I was being told I could go places and do things without somebody having to hold my hand, I would be like, wow, that's pretty incredible, man. That's pretty emotional. I mean, to me, that's just maybe overwhelming of an emotional feeling I would have go through my body if I could go do something by myself because of my handicap challenges. I mean, I think that's powerful. So for all this technology and all the, I get it. And I think that what I've said so many times is it's more about people telling you how to live and how to do. I don't think the average person per se is really, anti-electric vehicle car. It's the underlying message that goes with it. That's the thing. But once again, for people that are handicap challenged, this could be a huge door and opening for them in a lifestyle change. So hope that could be for so many that are handicapped. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Stay safe. God bless. Stay tuned. And what are we doing next? I don't know. What are we going to do in Tennessee? Uh-oh. Yikes, right? Have a great day.